Hey there, welcome back guys. This video is going to be for those that have the Pavo Pico and want to set up a GPS unit on it. I've looked at many videos online. There's one video online and the guys in Asia shows you how to configure it. I did that hundreds of times. It didn't work. Actually blew out a couple of two units, but not because of my soldering skills. It was because the wiring. But that being said, if you're gonna do this, I would recommend practicing on, see how strong a connection that is. Practicing on the what is it called? I guess they're called practice flight simulator boards, right? And you want to practice on it, and I'll clip in a bit so we can see. But we're gonna check out the soldering that I had done for the flight controller. Let's see what we have here. Oh, there we are. All right, so as you can see, one second, I just need a little thingy here so you can see what exactly it is I'm pointing to. The soldering is a little tricky, but if you have these glasses that magnify everything, it's a piece of cake. But on top of that, you still got to practice because you don't want to ruin your flight controller, and you can mess up if you, I would say, practice soldering until you can get well, I'll show you later on, but until you can get the finest point soldered, okay? Once you get the finest point soldered, like here, but simulated on there, you're golden. All right, let's move forward. And what I mean by that is this here. This is the flight controller practice board, right? And if you look and see, right? See that? We want to make sure that you can get, let me zoom out a little bit and then zoom back in. The iPhone isn't really the best for this. If you can solder two wires together there without screwing up, and two wires there without screwing up, then you're ready for the flight controller. All right. So again, practice on the bigger ones, work your way to the smaller ones, and then when you can get one here and one there, and there we go. Zoom out of it. Again, practice on these. And the only way to get those, right, so close, because like, how do I get that? I wear glasses. There's no way, is with these. So what happens is with these two, they magnify the view. So everything looks so close, but it's not. And then with the right soldering iron tip, you know, you're pretty much golden. But it's tricky. Practice, practice, practice. It took me a couple of tries, and I only used one board. So I might do a giveaway. But yeah, and it's really strong. You know, you want it to be strong because the unit has to be manhandled when putting it back together. So the tricky part, as you can see, where is it, is here. Okay. So we have the corner part. See where it says in the corner, that right there? That's actually T1. Too bad I can't get a better visual of it on the... oh, there we go. That's T1, and the one next to it is R1, okay? So T1, R1, and then you have your voltage that's connected to the main connector, which goes to the O3 unit. And then the white one, right, is the white one's the R1. And then this one here, this, let me see if I can point to it. That red one, that's the 5 volt. Okay, you don't want to connect it to this one because that one I believe is 7 or 8 volts. And then the ground is the ground. But what I did was I just dropped a little tiny piece of solder on there to just to get it to, you know, to work. And as you can see, it's not a bad soldering job. But it's just hard to do, and you don't need a magnify. You don't need to connect it to the computer to solder. And these are just regular connectors that go to the let me see if we can see, to the O3 air unit. Am I pointing in the right direction? Yeah, right there. So these go to those, so don't mess with those. So basically only the ones in the diagram. But the tricky part is this, because let's see if I can go back in here. So the yellow, let's see if I can point to the yellow. It's tricky because it's backwards. Left is right and right is left. All right, so this is the T1, okay? So that one, as you can see, the T1, right? Let me see if I can bend it a little. There we go. All right, so the T1 actually goes to the opposite connection on the GPS unit, okay? So even though the T1 is a yellow, right? The T1 is actually here's the GPS unit. The T1 actually goes on the R, okay? And then reverse, again, the T on the GPS unit, remember this is a GPS unit. The T, right, on the GPS unit goes to the R, right? As you can see, where's the R? Goes to the R, which is the white cable on the, let me just get it in. That goes into the R, see, R1, which is the white cable, goes into the R1 on the flight controller, which is the board, right? I wonder if this can zoom out a little bit more. No, it zooms in. No, fortunately not. That's about as good as it gets. Now I have to set the settings back so that I can see the board again. Yeah, so that's that. All right. Oh, that's not so bad. Ooh, look at that. So again, remember the opposite. So if you put it on the T, so if you put it on the T1, which is right there, let me just move that in for you guys so you guys can see. Okay, see the T1 right there? So if you put it on the T1, you got to know that it goes onto the opposite one. It goes onto the R on the GPS unit. Okay, and I'll leave a little diagram so you can see, and I'll just so you guys know exactly what I'm talking about before you solder anything. And this is the setup I have for this chip. Okay, so it's the original flight controller for the Pavo Pico. So I didn't go out and buy another chip. This is the factory, the stock. All right, so there you go. T1. See, it's backwards. T1, R1. You just can't. You have to read he said that already. But remember, on here, on the last time I'm saying it, it's upside down. Okay, and also backwards on the on this thing. Okay, but the voltage and the ground don't get moved. There's no opposite. V goes to V, and etc. Okay, and then we have that would be the yellow is R. Okay, so even though it's backwards, but T goes to R. All right, now that I've said that 100 times, as you can see, it's a little tiny piece of solder. It's so small, and what I do is I use these tweezers right there. Right? That means everybody has their own method. And I just use my goggles, right? My glasses, 3D glasses, and I just drop it right in there, right? With the once it's on there, so you can see it's right over there on the edge. And so what you want to do is just move it a little bit so that it's centered, right? Like that. Perfect. So then you just tap it with the soldering iron. I mean, I don't have my tripod with me. It's on the other side, but you'll see it after. So there it is. Is that zoomed in? Yeah, there we look how nice and clean. There we go. Now you can see I redid the ground. We have the V and the T, and that's how you want it to look. And you want to tap it really fast. Can't let the heat sit on there for too long. But now, let's see what I'm going to do. Now I have to connect them here. I'm not sure if I'm going to rewire it, use these cables, or just solder it. So this one's soldered pretty good, as you can see. Fine lines. It's holding pretty tight. Whoops. I just want to have my... See that? Not bad. I'd say it's a fair soldering job. And then you have to make sure the wiring connection is not as straightforward as you think it is, because it's actually opposite. I know what you're thinking. not again. I can't stress anymore, because remember, you only get one take with this soldering iron. Once you fuck it up, that's it. You're going to have to spend another $20 or maybe $75 on a new one. Okay? So, last time, see on the diagram, the ground is the black, which goes to the black. The red is the voltage, which, as you can see on the right-hand side, gets soldered to the 5-volt line, as you see in the photograph, right? But now the tricky part is, you see the T1 on the right, the yellow, actually is going to go into the R on the GPS unit. You see the T on the left, the white, is actually going to go in the R1 on the flight controller, okay? So knowing that and moving forward, that's it. That's the last time I'm going over this, because it can be confusing if, you know, if things are very black and white to you. Like, why don't I just put the T with the T and the R with the R? You just can't. I don't know why. You just can't explain it. That's just the way it is, and nobody does it that way. I don't know why. We have to ask the people that made it. All right, let's move forward. On the Pavo Pico, we have to put everything back together again. So you'll have this. Remember, this is the back. Remember where the back is and where the front is, because you can't screw this up. Okay. I believe the shell is somewhat universal, except the back is the back. And see, it doesn't matter if that's the back or that's the front, I believe, because the screws will go in. What matters is putting the GPS unit in, right? Oops, putting the GPS, oh, because the magnifying glass is out of the picture, which is great. So I'm going to open up Betaflight. So before you put this back together on your drone, I didn't open that movie box. Anyway, all right. So before you put this thing back together, you want to make sure it works in Betaflight. Okay. So what you're going to do is you're going to launch Betaflight, and these are the settings. Okay. So your drone's apart in a little, or Pavo Pico, Pico Paco is in many pieces, and you're just going to copy these settings. Just pause the video. Copy the settings. Pause the video, copy the settings, okay? All right, so here is your flight controller. We're going to click connect. Oh, of course I can't connect because I need power. I just need more power. All right, so make sure you have a USB port available. That's why I'm doing this on my phone, because the other Osmos Action, this has first priority. All right, so now we have our drone or flight controller. You want to make sure, again, before you put it back together, that everything works and is soldered correctly, okay? I can't express anymore, because the last thing you want to do is for a solder connection to disconnect, and then you're pretty much not screwed, but you gotta, oh, if you look really closely, I get a better view of the soldered connections from here. Let's see. See? Not bad for soldering, you know. It's fair. You know, I'm sure some guys have done better, but you know what? This is all new to me, as it is to you. The trouble is finding these videos that actually show you how to do it step by step, right? All right. So you're going to connect. And don't worry about the battery. See right there, battery's not connected. That's okay. What you want to do is go to ports, right? These are the port settings. Pause the video, take a screenshot, whatever works for you, so that you can see what needs to be done. UART1, you're going to go down to sensor input, right? Sensor input, just put GPS and 5000, 7600, okay? Then you're going to scroll down again to UART4. 11, that's the numbers there. It's already there. It's pre-populated. And then VTX MSP plus D. Okay? And then you're going to go to UART6 and just turn on serial RX. And then you're going to save and reboot. I don't have to save it because, as you can see, it just already works. Configuration. Okay? Configuration, you're going to scroll down a little bit and scroll down. I turned all this on. You know, that might work for you. That just kind of worked for me. GPS, I turned on. U-Blocks is on. Autobaud is on. Auto config is on. just works. You can save and reboot. Power and battery, don't worry about it. I think there was one more thing in reboot and config. No, there isn't. Okay. You also want to make sure that this is in enable expert mode. Okay, because it's gonna, as you look to your left, you see the menu, just more stuff appear. Fail safe. All right, this is what you want to do. For fail safe, okay, remember, feel free to pause the video and just copy the settings. Okay, don't worry if you missed it, I will go over it again before quitting. All right, GPS rescue, you want to select that. See right there. All right, because I think by default it's in drop, and the last thing you want is for it to drop from the sky. GPS rescue. Turn this on. Allow arming without fix. Okay, that just works well. If you've done that, I'm going to scroll back up again. Okay, scroll down. GPS rescue selected. Turn on that. Pause the video. And go back again. Stop and rewind. Save and reboot. Okay. Presets. Leave it. Don't touch it. PID tuning. Leave it. Don't touching. Receiver. Make sure that this is that. Don't touch that. Make sure this is S-Bus. If you're using the same chip, everything pretty much stays the same, except, so there's nothing in here, because if you watch the other video, if you haven't watched the other video, then these settings would be there. These are, just stay. If you don't see S-Bus and serial port provider, just change it to that, and then that stays there. That's VIUART. Okay, modes. All right, this is the same as before. You might want to add GPS rescue. We have the beeper for GPS rescue. I'll get back to you guys on that with another port. Okay, because I guess that's the return home feature, but for now we're just activating the GPS unit so we can see it, it works, etc. It's great. We're not going to be messing with buttons in the air right now. Okay, but we can and we will. Adjustments, leave it, don't touch it. Servos, leave it, don't touch it. GPS, okay, as you can see, it's looking for GPS right now, but when you do, I'll show you on the next part of the video how the GPS will actually load, because we'll see it load before we actually put it together. Actually, there's a video clip right now I can show you of the GPS loading. So this is a GPS loading. Okay, as you can see right there, it's the Pavo Pico is outside. Oops, and let me just press play. I did a screenshot earlier, and as you can see, I got a lot of satellites, which is great, and of course the battery. But it has to be connected to the batteries for the satellite to actually start picking up. But I believe there's a built-in battery in this particular unit, so don't worry about that. But right now, nothing is going to show because we're not connected yet. Okay, so I'm just going to show that that's great. As you can see, it works. Let's go back to Betaflight. Motors, leave it, don't touch it. But your I don't even know where my unit is. You want to make sure that you put this on correctly. Okay, you're only going to get one take, and if you screw this up, it's going to be messed up. But take it off, right, and leave it to the side the way you presumably left it. And if you need to get back to it later, get back to it later. But don't put this on wrong, because that'll throw off the whole propeller configuration. Okay? All right, moving forward. OSD. This is where you're going to want to pause. And as you can see, I added a home point. I added satellites. How many satellites? Longitude and latitude. This arrow right here tells you which direction home is. Okay? My battery, and of course how hot the unit gets, because once it gets hot, these settings don't even matter. That's why I wasn't going to put the return home GPS thing, because the Pavo Pico just burns up so fast it's going to fall from the sky no matter what. I don't see it coming back home. I could see it coming back home and doing a return home, but then you can take over, but the it's just going to fall from the sky. I've seen it 100 times. I just wish there was another setting for that, but it is what it is. But this will give you an experience before building your next drone on the and having the full GPS experience of return home and actually coming home and you taking over and doing what needs to be done. Okay, Imperial, because if you saw my last video, I was just flying it around the house and the unit just, after, I don't know, a couple of minutes, it just fell. Power just shuts off. Units, Imperial. Battery voltage, I have that selected. This is if you want the settings you see on my screen, okay? Core temperature, that you want, because once it reaches, I believe it's 165, the unit will shut off. So if you're configuring things and you don't configure them in time, by the time it's 165, 168, the unit's going to cut off, and then you got to wait a couple of minutes for it to cool down so that you can continue with your settings. You know, so you could probably do these settings before you connect the battery, if that makes any sense. If it lets you, though, I don't think it will. But yeah, before you connect the battery, but you can connect it, as you can see, via USB, so there's no overheating in that sense. So set all your settings and configurations while the unit is connected via USB. Okay, and you should see these flashing lights. If you don't, look at the other video on how to reflash the firmware. Oh, and the GPS unit, as you can see, you need to see that blue. All right, and this part goes up in the air. As for how I'm going to put it on, that's basically that for the next part. Okay, all right, so these are the settings. All three are selected. Home direction, home distance, you never know. You can't really fly too far with the Pavo Pico. Scroll down. Warnings, I left warnings on. And now to the right hand side, okay? Timer I have selected. Speed maximum. RSS, I think that was by default. Battery voltage minimum. Battery MAHUs, that's kind of neat. I like that because that gives you, if you scroll up, you'll see right here, you know, the battery. It tells you how much is left. I like that. Which mode you're in, right? Which would have been, I believe, under F for flight mode. See that right there? But again, we're moving back to the right. All right. Arming disabled. Battery critical. That's on. That's on. That's on. That's on. I'm just going to scroll down and then just copy these settings. And then as you become more, you know, expert than me, right? Then just shut it on and off, whatever works for you. You know, like these don't have to be your settings, but this is just what I have for those that, hey, I like that, I want that too. You know, for those that want that too. For those that know what they want and just want to know how to do the GPS, just fast forward a little bit. All right, RC smoothing, there. Remember to pause the video and just copy the settings. Couldn't be done easier. Scroll down, speed maximum, and that's it. All right. Video transmitter, leave it, don't touch it. Okay. LED strip, leave it, don't touch it. Again, if you don't see this menu, click here on the right, enable expert mode. Okay, I'm no expert. I'm just learning this like you. I'm just like trying. I look online. I'm like, damn, where's the video for that? And it's in Chinese, and then the settings don't work. And I'm like, what the fuck? Then it's just like a process of elimination. Let me try this button. Nope. Click. Let me try that button. Nope. Click. Let me try that button. Nope. Click. It's just like, you know, breaking it and putting it back together again, like a Curious George, but except, you know, fixing it. All right, there. Black box. Leave it. And that's it. Okay, so that's it for this. And now, as long as you got, I'm just gonna go back. As long as you got, see that GPS thing going and all the settings. If you need to go back, go back. You're golden. So now for the fun part and putting this back together, and actually, you know, testing it outside. This is going to take a little bit. It's probably going to take, I don't know, an hour. It was so easy to take apart. Forget about putting it back together. And yeah, I'll see you guys on the next half of the video. Probably thought I was going to leave this out, huh? All right. So for those of you who are having trouble putting it back together, right? See how the propeller guards are? Not propeller guards. The propellers are. So look, let me show you. This one. Oops. This one's going that way. This one's going this way. And then the two at the bottom, one goes that way, right? And the other one's going that way. See that? One's going that way, the other one's going that way. So just freeze, pause the video, copy these settings, make sure you place the drone down, right? So that the propellers are in the same direction. Look at the bottom. This here, where that sticker is, that's the back. Okay, so I'm just going to put that over here. And then we know that this here is the back, right? So now what you got to do is put that like that and then put it back together. So let me put it back together and show you guys, okay? Okay, so now you want to find like a piece of plastic. This is going to be similar to the USB experience when getting these things in. That's the tricky part. But you want to use plastic. Find something in your kitchen, or if you have the screwdriver set or anything like this that comes, well, you know, make sure. And then once you have the connectors in, you want to again connect it to the Betaflight and make sure everything works, or none of your soldering connections came off. If you soldered everything correctly, you know, you can manhandle it like the other flight controller I was showing you in the beginning, as long as your solder connections are good. Okay, so I'm going to put this together again. Okay, so if you did everything correctly, it should look like this. See that? The wiring is correct. The antenna is where it needs to be. And now we can screw everything back together to the main unit, okay? Before you attach the O3 air unit, make sure you connect it to Betaflight and that everything's up and running and working, because the last thing you want is for a soldered connection to disconnect, and then you pretty much got to take it apart again. All right, so check via Betaflight before putting the O3 air unit on, okay? The unit should look like this before you put it back together. And remember, you didn't have to take apart the whole thing, or you don't have to, right? It just pops right on. You just have to run it through those little rubber washer thingies and then put it on so that it's screwed through the hole. So it's like that. So I'm going to screw it back together and then plug it back in and see if everything still takes. Remember, each step you take, I can't stress, every step you take when it's assembled, check it in Betaflight, okay? Assemble, check it in. So this next step, well, this is the last step. The only thing left to do after this is go back to 0, all right? All right, so I'm going to screw it back together and then check it again in Betaflight. Everything is flashing, as you can see. We have our lights that we want. And most of all, we have the, which is really important, the GPS unit is lit up still, and our connections are there. We hope our connections are there. Remember, it takes a little manhandling. As you can see, I ran it through between the positive and negative. It may or may not cause interference. It shouldn't. If you have a better way of doing this, share. But on that note, I'm just going to put this to the side. And remember, when you do attach it, this part, well, you'll see in the end of the video, that part goes facing up. But the moment of truth is what we really want to see, is, drum roll please. All right, so the real moment of truth is this. As you can see, it's successfully closed, but that's from our last connection. What we want to do is, and you want to make sure the lights are flashing. You see all those lights. We're going to click connect over here. And it should connect. As you can see, it says Betaflight. You have those zeros. And voila, it still works. Awesome. And as you can see, the GPS is right there. There's no battery connected, but that part I'm not worried about. All right. So now we're just going to disconnect. Okay, so everything's working. I used a 3M strip. I'm not sure if you've heard of these, that you can buy them from CVS, but it's a double layer, because remember, the unit gets hot, so it'll take more time for the heat from the O3 air unit to transfer onto the GPS unit, because you really don't want it to be on there, because it does get hot. So if there's another solution you have, share it in the description. So the heat from the O3 air unit doesn't transfer really quick to the GPS unit. Now remember, it's still going to get hot and the heat will still somewhat transfer, but at least it has a little layer of protection where it doesn't go and transfer that fast, right? Like it'll get warm while this is hot, that'll still be warm. And hopefully the adhesive doesn't start to disconnect because of that warmth. It'll probably melt the tape or the glue that's actually underneath there, attached to these things. There is another adhesive that's really strong. You could use that, but good luck getting it off. I was going to use this, but then, you know, so I don't know the solution to that, but I do know that this is a little hack and it works, you know. All right, so let's see how this baby flies. So remember, I don't give flying lessons. Don't fly like me, but I will, like I say in the other videos, help you understand and fix your drone. But that's about it when it comes to flying. I'm still working on the simulator. I'm all right. I'm fair. All right, so the tricky part is getting the battery in. So most likely, if it doesn't reach, right, pull it out and then just flip it the other way. We're gonna test it to see if it actually flies. Everything works. Test the GPS. Of course, the GPS will test outside, which you'll see working. But I just want to make sure the propellers are where they need to be since we took it apart, right? You hear the beep? There was like a beep, slow beep. I think I activated that in the settings. All right, so there's that. You want to make sure your wires are good. There was a sync, which is great. I didn't, I'm not using, the audio might be a little bit different because I'm not using the Osmo Action, because if this thing crashes, I'd rather have it crash into my phone. GPS is lit, which is great. Let's have a look in the goggles. Remember, you got to be fast, because if you're not, nice, everything is there. We're at 120 degrees, awesome. So the trick is to get the flight up and running before the unit overheats. 124. All right, so now we're just gonna arm a little bit. So remember, your keys should be set. All right, we're gonna take off. Let me just make sure. Oh man, aircraft processor overheated. Let's see. All right, we're gonna take it off again. Let it hopefully it doesn't overheat. Okay. And we're just gonna fly it a little bit. Remember, flying it helps to cool it off, so that the propellers are spinning. Ooh. Disarm. Yeah, I was about to oh, let me go get my drone. Yeah, about that. So like I said, I don't give flying lessons, but stay on this channel for all the tech stuff. All right, let's see. Now I want to make sure it works, because what happens is sometimes after the after this thing crashes, it's hard to start it up again. Oh, look, we have some metrics here, maximum current use. So these are the stats that I put in. Let's see, let's try it again. Back out. So now I have to arm it again. I'm just gonna put the camera. Remember, you don't have a lot of time. So even though the GPS is there and it works, so yeah, I do have to reset. So if you have to do that to put it into the mode, then you need to just fix the settings with the screws. All right, let's see what we got here. Here we go again. Take 3. Whoa. Whoops, disarm. Yeah, so about that. So yeah, I'm just gonna spend some more time in the simulator, but we're gonna take this outside and check out how the GPS works. All right. So it takes a little bit of time for the satellites to pick up. As you can see, I have 5 satellites, but what I would recommend doing is connecting it to a computer or device that has Betaflight on it, so that you can load the satellites, right? And then as soon as the satellites load, you connect the battery. And when the battery's connected, it should continue with the satellite connection. As you can see, it tells you how many. I got 6. Should get more. I've gotten up to quite a bit. especially when you load it on beta flights. As you can see, the drone's flying around. Actually, I'm walking with it because, as you know, my flying skills in the basement. Now picture that outside. Yeah, this thing would just become a wreck. But as you can see, look at the GPS. It's moving. We went from 88. Look at the last two digits, okay? We went 97. And then keep see 98. As you can see, I'm flying around. And as you can see, a little bit of left, a little bit of right. Oh no, it's like the greatest American hero. But aside from, all joking aside, this works. And as you can see, the temperature's going up. That's why I'm saying this thing overheats. And we know it works. Maybe I'll load it up a little bit later with the during the day, where I can actually see where it lands, so that it's actually one of the batteries has finished charging, so we can see where it lands and crashes, right? And if we can see the home point being updated, and there's supposed to be an arrow that on the top right hand corner that will point to where the home point is, like which way, kind of like instead of an H, it would be an arrow telling you to go that way. And as you can see, the longitude and latitude is moving. So this is great. Like I said, I can't teach you how to fly, but having that GPS on there is a step up for the Pavo Pico Paco. I hope this video helped you, right? And you're better able to have a more elaborate GPS experience with this mini drone. And if you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them down below, or ideas for other videos. And remember to subscribe. And I'll see you all next time.